And we are live once again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Sober Talk. I'm going to kind of wait for everyone to kind of file in, and if you're watching the playback, thank you so much. Be sure to watch it all the way through, not only for my watch time minutes, but to ensure that you are able to take in as much of the message as you possibly can. For those not familiar with Sober Talk, what we talk about in Sober Talk is how to stay sober. But even if you do not have a problem with alcoholism, feel free to come in. I mean, there might be, this is kind of, I guess you could say, the perspective of, you know, we all know somebody who's a drunk and needs to find recovery, or maybe we have someone who's in recovery and you want to understand the recovery side of it all. So we talk about, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, just like you would in an AA meeting. But we're just sharing it from, I guess you could say from my perspective, which isn't, if you will, it's not the, sometimes I may have my I will interject my own opinions on the true outlook of Alcoholics Anonymous. So you can kind of almost say at that point it's not 100% Alcoholics Anonymous. So again, feel free to kind of poke in and listen to the message. By all means, if you've got any questions, what we're talking about during this stream, by all means, feel free to ask. To ask any questions, to stop me at any point if you don't understand what we're talking about. All right. Normally, I do my prayer off camera to kind of ask my higher power, as I understand my higher power, to kind of help me during these streams to kind of reach all of you. So you know, if this helps at any point, by all means, I mean, y'all are welcome to kind of follow along with me. I'm going to be going to my AA Big Book. Now, real quick, for those who do not know, the book self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous is known as the is known as the Big Book in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's actually a reason why. I mean, the book really isn't that big. Specific reason why. Back when the first printing was done in like 1939, there was two types of paper to make these books. There was a thin paper and there was a thicker paper. Now, the thinner paper was more expensive, and Alcoholics Anonymous, being, not having a whole lot in the way of money, went with the thicker paper. So as soon as they started putting the book together like such, the book got really thick, hence the Big Book. That's how it got its name. So let me find the prayer that I really should be doing today. Again, if you've got your own big book, by all means, you're welcome to kind of follow along on said prayer. And actually, I'm going to go, I better stay right here on page 63, known as the third step prayer. And it's one that helps me out a great deal. Okay. I see one in the chat at the moment. Thank you so much for dropping into the live. Again, we're just talking about helping, I'm just talking about staying sober. By all means, if you got any questions about what it is that I'm talking about, maybe you're not familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous and some of the stuff that we talk about in those meetings, feel free to ask. Okay. By all means. All right. On to the third step prayer, and then I can really kind of dive in. And during these dark times, you guys might find some use in some of this stuff. All right. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. All right. I feel good enough now to kind of tackle this subject today, this subject matter. I was going through my big book, and if you've ever wondered, thank you, Joni, for being here for this recovering alcoholic. My sober date, and you'll always know if a person's in recovery because my sober date is February 7th, 2006. That's when I got sober. Okay, so it's been over 14 years since my last drink or drug, and Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life. So thank you so much for being here for me and the live today. All righty. If you ever wondered what would happen if a guy like me relapsed, there's actually what my first sponsor and current sponsor. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joni. As a matter of fact, my first sponsor actually calls these the drinking promises. What happens to a person when they start drinking? We were having troubles with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery, depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. He actually refers to those as the drinking promises. Basically, what happens to an alcoholic like me who's in recovery, if I start drinking again, these things will actually come back into my life. I don't want those things. That's why every now and again we do these talks. I'd like to do them a little bit more often, but just unfortunately, as sad as this sounds, I know I should do these more often, but I don't. Mainly because a lot of people just don't watch them. Evidently, getting sober is almost like it's cool that it's like people will say it's cool that you're doing it, but I don't have a problem with alcohol, and the entire time they're doing drugs and drinking themselves into oblivion. So it's kind of getting sober is cool for cool for Prince Magnum, but it's not so cool evidently for everybody else. It is sad. It is sad. But here's a passage. If anybody, you can kind of excerpt this. If you use it however you need to, okay? Thank you so much for the like. Thank you so much for the like. If it ever becomes an issue, and we all know somebody. We all know somebody. Hey, what's going on? JD Gaming. We're doing another Sober Talk Live. I was actually just getting ready to read something from. I noticed that. Thank you so much. JD, hang on a second. There's been something I've been meaning to do for a second. There we go. JD, could you do me a favor and say something in the comments, whatever you need to say? I think you'll notice a slight change, or at least change in color, if you will. All righty. Real quick, you can kind of excerpt this if you know if someone needs that little something that will tell to kind of tell them, hey, you might be at the end of your rope, you might need to go seek out help. Here it is. Okay, thank you so much, JD, for being here for me. All right, here's that excerpt, and it's on page 25 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is, if you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into a region which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was going on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best as we could, and the other was to accept spiritual help. Alcoholics Anonymous does not claim any race, religion, ethnic background, sexual orientation. We don't claim one, the other, or anything else. We are a fellowship of many religions. We're a fellowship of many, many different backgrounds, ethnic cultures. As a matter of fact, Alcoholics Anonymous, ironically enough, does exceptionally well on the Native American reservations. Does exceptionally well on the reservations. So if that's any indication, we don't claim anything other than We just want to help people find an answer to their problems with alcohol. Mm. So if you ever wonder about that spiritual thing, as a matter of fact, in one particular meeting, and I joke about this every now and again, but in one particular AA meeting, on one side of me was, it is good. It's wonderful that we are able to do that. Not many organizations out there can do that, and we've managed to do pretty well at it all these years. Um, but on one side of me was a retired Catholic priest. On the other side of me was a Muslim, and of course, for those that do not know, I'm actually a neo-pagan, believing in the old pagan gods. So the joke is that a pagan, a Catholic, and a Muslim walk into an AA meeting, and the chairperson looks up and says, "What the hell is this? Some kind of a joke?" But anyhow, so if you know anybody, who's at that moment on page 25, right? On page 25, in the chapter known as There's a Solution, right there at the bottom of the page, I actually have it highlighted, is that little excerpt that I just read about, the no middle of the road solution. See, I was looking at a bunch of these today that really would help. And right now, with the pandemic going on, let me throw this one at you. And this is again right from the same book. And this little particular something has kept me through a lot of dark times, and it's helped me stay sober these 14 years. And it goes like this: cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have, the key to life and happiness for others. With it, you can avert death and misery for them. Man, people don't talk like that anymore. And what basically that's saying is, this is kind of, if you will, Prince Magnum's translation. You're going to go through some tough times. You're going to go through dark moments in your life. You're going to be experiencing things that's just very difficult to get through. Just understand that whoever your higher power is, the God of your understanding that you may not understand, need you to go through that, because at some point in time, you're going to come in contact with somebody who's going to be going through the same exact thing. And you're going to be the only one who's going to be able to help them through that moment. And let me also say, and I know there's a lot of people at first that's going to get really upset when I say this, but you're going to have to hear me out first. You're going to have to hear this out first. And it goes like this: how many times have we heard, numerous times in the past, God doesn't give you any more than you can handle? We've heard that a million times, okay? Right, you get it. Well, we've always heard that, nobody, God doesn't give you any more than you can handle. I've heard that a million times. My first sponsor, Sober Man, and who again is now sponsoring me, when him and I talked about that, he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, Prince Magnum, that is bullshit. God does give you more than you can handle, but he always puts the right people in your life to help you get through that moment. So you might be that right person. That's why you got to go through it." Okay. Every religion I have ever read on, the God in that religion always made people where they need people. Okay. We're sociable, and so, I mean, you guys get what I'm saying. We need each other. So in these dark times, just understand that you're going to go. Exactly. So JD, you get exactly what I'm talking about right now. How exactly. You totally get it. How just those things that we're going through will help another person grow stronger. Katana Gaming. I am doing very well. We're actually doing we're doing a live where I'm actually kind of going through and reading some excerpts from the Alcoholics Anonymous textbook, sometimes called the Big Book. Thank you so much for the second like. And what we are doing is I'm sharing some things that kind of helped me through some dark times. And especially right now, a lot of people are going through a lot of crazy stuff. You know, we got the shopping nightmare here in the US and just all these different things like that. People under quarantine and loved ones getting sick and everything. And we're all worried. I figured this would be an absolutely wonderful time uh, for me to, grab my big book, share some stuff out of this book that has carried me through some really, really tough times and kind of share my own personal experience, strength, and hope in hopes even if you're not an alcoholic like me, and I'm 14 years sober, uh, if you yourself, you may not be alcoholic, maybe you know someone who is, or maybe you just need some words that, some words to kind of get you through these dark moments. However it works for you, my hope is that you all find something in this that helps you. You go right on ahead, brother. You have a good time, JD. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart that you stopped in. It means the world to me. I will do my best to keep up the good work. Thank you so much, JD. All righty. Let me grab an. I know there's a lot of you out there. Since we got some gamers in here, who every once in a while you guys get, how it might be a friend that kind of turns on you and says some bad things about you, and then you guys are kind of at odds. Um, uh, I just happened to look down and I seen this one. Maybe this will help you guys out. All right. It's on page 125 of the big book. For the record, the first 64 pages of the Alcoholics Anonymous book has not been changed since its first printing in 1940. All right. Another principle we observe carefully is that we do not relate intimate experiences of another person unless we are sure he would approve. We find it better, when possible, to stick to our own stories. A man may criticize or laugh at himself and it will affect others favorably, but criticism or ridicule coming from another often produces the contrary effect. Members of a family should watch such matters carefully, for one careless, inconsiderate remark has been known to raise the very devil. We alcoholics are sensitive people, and it takes some of us a long time to outgrow that serious handicap. All right, we live in real sensitive times, and when this was wrote, people were not quite as sensitive, but an alcoholic was. Our little feelings got hurt pretty easy, and that's actually a pretty commonplace thing now. A lot of people are so easily offended, and there's a lot of gossip going on, and it happens sometimes in the gaming community, and I've seen it happen a lot. And a lot of times I kind of get back out of it, because both are my friends, so I don't get involved in it. Typically, what I usually do is the way I treat it, gossip, okay? And this is just something that one of the old timers kind of taught me. He'd put his hand up right like this, and he'd go, whatever's on this side of my hand is my business. Whatever's on this side of my hand isn't. And he said, now the only time that changes, you know what? I've got a cat that actually, my cat Tabor. He's not in here right now, but he actually helps. He's my service animal. I actually suffer from PTSD, and when I have flashbacks, he's the one that takes care of me. My wife just, kind of does what she can, and I love the, I thank her for it. But a lot of times it's my cat Tabor. When she sees me start going through my flashbacks, it's not uncommon. She'll grab Tabor. You know what you got to do, buddy, and he'll sit with me and kind of help pull me through. Um, you know, he's my little buddy, so I get that. But for, I guess you could say, the spiritual side of me, this is where I still find hope. 14 years later, I still find hope, and in the AA Big Book. That's one of the awesome things. Here we go. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, we've read that. Here we go. Ooh, fifth step promises. You guys got to hear those. Those are always so powerful. So powerful. Into action. Pocket our pride. Yeah, that's an important one. Well, we could all use to pocket our pride. Yes. Oh, passed it up. I just seen it too. What the heck? See, that's the funny thing about these books. They have the ability with that disappearing, reappearing ink. Here we go. These are known as what was that? It has stood the test of time. Ironically enough, you might find this interesting. Evidently, I don't want to really give too much away on this, but it seems like a certain generation of folks have the toughest time right now getting sober. Ironically enough, it seems to be, and I don't want to be that one to sound like I'm bashing this generation, but the generation that seems to have the hardest time right now getting sober is the millennial generation. And there was actually talk that came down from AA World Services that they were talking about reprinting the first 164 pages of the Big Book to maybe fit them because they didn't understand the language. And several of us, and I was even one of the ones who voted against it. They're like, no, get a freaking dictionary, okay? If you don't understand, get a dictionary or ask someone. We will help, pocket your freaking pride. It was like that. So I hate to be the one, but that actually came all the way down from AA World Services. And we're talking, that's the global headquarters for Alcoholics Anonymous, all the way up in New York. They actually have a post office box, believe it or not, at Grand Central Station. All right. Offices is at the Rockefeller Center, but I don't think you can go there right now. All righty. Page 75. This is oftentimes, this is the fifth step. Thank you for the third like. Thank you so much for the 3 that are in chat. All right. These are known as the fifth step promises. So after you take the fifth step, hey, Gamerin, what's up, buddy? I'm doing a little bit of stuff out of the Big Book. All right, fifth step promises. After you do the fifth step, this is what you get. Okay, this is what you get. 4 in the live now. Wow. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but we now believe we now begin to have a spiritual experience. That feeling the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you so much, Katana Gaming, for being here for me. Let me say right now, I am still a selfish alcoholic, even though I've been in recovery a long time. I'm so selfish that not only do I still need the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and every last one of its members, but I need every last one of you out there. Every last one of you. I need every one of you. It takes a lot of you to help me stay sober today. By you guys being in here and me, going into this, you are helping me stay sober. Okay? And I'm just going to say it like this. Alcoholism, even for me, after 14 years, this is still a life and death situation. If I pick up a drink, I know where I'm heading. I won't be, I don't think I'll make it. After this amount of time, I don't know if I could have the strength to walk back into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and say, help me. So I would probably die drunk. So I need you guys too. I need every one of you. Okay. And That's the power that my creator has given me, to be able to reach out to you. And by reaching out to all of you, you help me too. That is what, that's how this works. We help each other. And it doesn't have to be an alcoholic or an addict like me. It could be someone who's just walking down the street looking for an answer for the day, whatever it is to get them through the day. And there seems to be a lot of that going around at the moment. So, because of that, um, basically, if the numbers start showing up as we do Sober Talk Live, we're definitely going to start doing it more. Um, because I think if there's any message I want to give in anything that I do here on the Prince Magnum channel, is you can't enjoy life without a drink or a drug. I I don't take anything unless it's been prescribed by a doctor or it's over the counter. The most exciting thing that I drink anymore, thank you so much, Cameron. The most exciting thing I drink anymore is coffee. By the way, my son actually bought me this coffee cup for Christmas. My son Devin, who's 12 now, bought me this. Yeah, I'm old enough to have teenage children. I actually have a daughter that's 18. I can't even believe I'm 40 now. I got so real quick, since we're talking AA, I actually got sober, of all things. I got sober when I was 26 years old. And when I went into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, um, and I was, there I was listening to the meeting. I barely remember anything from that meeting because, I was just, you're kind of always in, for at least the first couple of months, it's like you're walking around in like a fog. And it's like, you know, it's almost like, how do I put this? A day feels like a week, and a week feels like a month. So first, my first month of sobriety, uh, I was in such a daze that it honestly felt a whole lot longer than it was. Um, and I was just kind of walking around in this fog. So I really don't remember a whole lot from that first meeting, but I do remember this. The guy who ended up sponsoring me and continues to now sponsor me again, he there's a long story, but when I was about 6.5 years sober, he stopped sponsoring me, and then about a year ago, he started sponsoring me again. You'll hear me call him Sober Man, and Sober Man is actually the man who taught me this book. But my first meeting, Sober Man says, "You're what, 18, 19 years old?" And I started laughing. And he said, "Okay, maybe, 20, 21." Now I'm like, wow, you're just throwing, you're just like guessing at this point. "Okay, how old are you?" And I said, "I'm 26." I was like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really 26." "No, no, you can't be." And, "Yes, I'm 26." And and they're like, "No, there's no way." And if here, and I pulled out my wallet, got out my driver's license. "Oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to." "No, sir, it's okay." And a gal who was sitting next to me said, "Well, let me see." And she was curious. She looks at, no, he really is 26 years old. I ended up dating that gal for a little while. And Sober Man told me later that he initially thought it was a fake ID. So, if you will, I got carded my first AA meeting, even though age doesn't mean a thing. I actually met a gal that when she got sober, she was 14 years old and became a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I met her, she was 50. Um, so she had an amazing story, absolutely amazing story. Just a fantastic woman. I haven't seen her in a long time. I hope she's doing okay. But anyhow, so that was one of the those fifth step promises. Actually, the third step promises. We actually okay. Uh, Prayer and meditation is like one of our key ingredients to helping. It's actually one of our spiritual tools. Those two things, um, and it actually talks about that in the steps. As a matter of fact, we'll go back here. Uh, we read this in every friggin' AA meeting. Um, Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That's actually step 11. As a matter of fact, if you will, we'll go to, you hear this in every AA meeting, and I can sometimes, I mean, I've had a stroke back in 2011, and I used to be able to actually be able to recite this from memory only. But since my stroke, I can't do that anymore. And I actually have a reading assignment that I've been having a difficult time with. Sober Man gave me this reading assignment in the Big Book, and I've just been having a really hard time reading it. I'll read it, and it's like the mind goes blank, and I've been having. But for some odd reason, I'm able to do okay at the moment. Uh, that's also why I'm taking intervals where I talk about something. But all right, starting on page 58, the chapter "How It Works," um, and it's like at the very beginning. Okay, and I'll read this off for you. Maybe you might find something that might help you. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these, sorry, hang on. At some of these we balked. We thought we can find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A. that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. No, no, this is the Alcoholics Anonymous textbook. This is, we called it, in AA, we actually call this the Big Book. And I actually was talking about this a little bit earlier. The Big Book, back in 1939, when they started printing this book, there was two types of paper to make books back then. There was a thin paper, and then there was a thick paper. Okay, and I don't know all the dimensions or anything, but because AA has always operated with small amounts of money, um, uh, Bill W., one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, he bought the publishing company, the Works Publishing Company, and when he started printing the big book, and the thicker paper was the cheaper one, so they started, when they started putting it together with this thicker paper, the book got thick. So in AA, we don't have the good book, we have the big book. So that's how the big book got its name, because the book got really big because of the thicker paper. So if you ever want, if anyone says, why do they call it the big book? It doesn't look that big. And that's why. That's why. So if you ever wondered about that, you hear me talk about the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, that's how it got its name. But no, this isn't Bible. Now, many AA meetings are held in churches, and along with that, uh, even though it's not necessarily Bible, there was some cues that were taken from the Bible, because that's what the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous had. That's all they kind of had to work with, for taking, kind of looking at spiritual terminology. So whenever you hear the term God, it's whatever God is to you. A lot of times, many of us nowadays refer to God as a higher power. In the AA Big Book, there's several times throughout the book it refers to as the spirit of the universe, if you will. So it's whatever your higher power is. There's even some of us who are atheist and agnostic that God becomes good orderly direction from good old drunks, believe it or not. So if you will, however it works for you. So, just kind of, yeah, if that helps any, So no, this is not Bible, but that's a good question. That's a really good question, because some people might get it confused. Oh, so you're agnostic. So, and I'm hoping that anything in here you would again find useful. I mean, um, you know, it's just one of those things. There's a lot of us in Alcoholics Anonymous that are, myself, I'm actually, again, I'm neo-pagan. And I've never found anything that I could, that where my faith doesn't, crash into what AA has taught me. I mean, I've never found anything that says otherwise. If anything, this complements the other. And if that's any indication. And again, I was actually talking about this earlier. I made a big joke about it. The 4 likes. Thank you all so much. I was actually talking about this earlier, how in one particular meeting on one side of me, literally on like this side was a retired Catholic priest. On the other side of me was an actual Muslim. And of course, here I am. I'm a neo-pagan, or just pagan if you want. And we all got along. Hey, what's going on, Sean? Thank you so much for dropping into the like. Thank you so much. So yeah, I mean, Alcoholics Anonymous is of many religions. So if and again, I actually know quite a few atheists that seem to find their way through, and you know, so if that helps you any, that I mean, that's again, that I'm glad you brought that up. Glad you brought that up. Let me see. So that's why. Let's see. Ooh, ooh, ooh. If anybody you ever know ever has to go into a meeting, and some old time, every once in a while you'll hear um you'll hear about these rough, tough old timers are like, sit down, shut up. We know what you know. Listen to what we know. That sort of thing. I had seen that in a few AA meetings, and I turned right around, grabbed my book, and this is, I actually had something that I read, and it's actually in a vision for you. And when I read it, they wanted to get upset, but they knew I had them. I had them over a barrel there. It's like, busted. Hang on, I'll find it. Here it is. Page 159. Had to think about it a second, And so if you ever, I've used this on old timers when they try to tell the newcomer to shut up and everything. A year and 6 months later, these three had succeeded with 7 more. Seeing much of each other, scarce an evening passed without someone's home did not shelter a little gathering of men and women, happy in their release and constantly thinking how they might present their discovery to some newcomer. In addition to these casual get-togethers, it became customary to set apart one night a week for a meeting to be attended by anyone and everyone interested in a spiritual way of life. Aside from fellowship and sociability, the prime objective was to provide a time and place where new people might bring their problems. Hey, what's going on, Daniel? Thank you so much for dropping in live. We're actually talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just read from 159 to page 160. Exactly. Again, we share, that's the thing. And yeah, so I will actually read that off and then say, for those who didn't fully understand what I just read, the meeting is for the newcomer. And I said, the job of us who've been around a while is to listen to those problems and do our very, very best to, to help each other. And I've even said it a million times in an AA meeting, a newcomer will keep me sober quicker than an old timer. So even after 14 years, a newcomer is actually going to keep me sober longer than what a new timer will. So just kind of take that in. Again, real quick, for all of you in here, and maybe I should have said this a whole lot sooner, and I do apologize. Get to know one another, hook up with each other, network. Get to know it. That's how we grow the community. All right. And again, I will say it as Prince Magnum, the host of the Prince Magnum channel. I will say it again and again and again. I have the best subscribers in the entire world, and that is you guys, the Maverick Nation. Anyhow, moving on. That's powerful stuff, isn't it? Thank you so much, Katana Gaming, for being here for me today. From the bottom of my heart, you rest well, okay? It's so wonderful that so many of you across the pond, come into my lives. It means the world to me, It means the world. It just goes to show that that positive vibes is positive vibes, no matter where you are. Thank you so much, Katana, for being here. All righty. So again, if anybody ever says anything like that, and you hear about that in an AA meeting, tell them 159, bottom of the page, start there. Oh, real quick, I'll share a prank. My first sponsor, that sober man, pulled on me back when I was still really new to the program. I was probably like 5 months sober. And it says, "Hey, Prince Magnum, did you know the first 3 words on page 112 will tell you everything you need to know about staying sober?" And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, check it out. So I grabbed my big book I turned to page 112, and the first three words on that page that's supposed to help me stay sober, tell me everything I need to know about staying sober. Read this book. And I'm sitting there going, you asshole. So I pull that in meetings every now and again too. I'll go into a meeting and say, did you guys, those of you who've been around a little while, did you all know that on page 112, the first three words on that page will tell you everything you need to know about staying sober? You'll see them rush over and grab a big book because most of them forget it. And then they'll read this book and they're like, I hate you right now, but that's good. That's real good. That's some good stuff, isn't it? There you guys go. There you guys go. Hanging out with each other. We're sharing positive vibes from Alcoholics Anonymous. That's awesome stuff. That's awesome stuff. That's what's up. All righty. Let's see. Would be a really good one you guys might really like to hear. Would you guys like to hear the during my first meeting, I was moved to tears when I heard this, and it was read at the end of the meeting. You guys want to hear that one? I think you guys really would like to hear that. It's actually on 164, and it's all. And if you hear about it in a meeting, you'll hear it called "A Vision for You." And you know what? We're going to save that one till when we get a little closer to the end of the stream. We'll save this one. Let's see. Here, I'll read another one of my favorite prayers in here, because there is actual prayers in here. That's step 4. Here it is. This is the 7th step prayer. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. Amen. And that's actually when you read that, you're done with step 7. Not a joke. Originally, there's like a commentary almost sort of thing. It's called the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. You'll sometimes hear it referred to in AA meetings as the 12 and 12, but it's the 12 Steps, 12 Traditions. And I will be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the 12 Traditions. 14 years, I don't know a whole lot about it. I mean, I've read a lot about it, but I don't know a whole lot about them. I know the 12 Traditions actually is like kind of the guidelines for the, for the AA groups. And any group that doesn't follow those traditions, for some reason, is not very successful. They usually end up closing their doors pretty quickly. That's just kind of how it is. But the 12 steps is for personal recovery. I will also say, if you've noticed, when I'm reading this, it says we, us, are. Yes, recovery is a personal journey, but you don't go it alone. So if you ever wondered about that. Again, thank you for how many there's 3 of you in the live with 4 likes. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't yet, be sure to smash the like button. Let YouTube know that content like this exists. All righty. Moving on. Some good, powerful stuff, isn't it? Here we go. If you guys ever wonder if I, whenever I make them, that's right. We rock. The Maverick Nation. All right. On page 70, this is actually, whenever I make a mistake in my life, because, I'm not perfect. Just because I've went through, got 14 years of continuous sobriety and that sort of thing. And I've worked the 12 steps and I've sponsored people. I've done, I've sat in large groups, been to conventions and spoken in front of large groups of people, stuff like that. I've done some pretty neat stuff in my time. Let me say right now, I'm not washed white as snow. No, I don't think I've seen that one. But there's an old TV show out of the 70s that's about firefighter paramedics that you might really like called Emergency. You would love that one. But it's definitely captures that 1970s vibe, and really good show. I know there for a long time you used to be able to see it on trying to remember where it used to be. Nick TV, something like that. Seen it? Great show. Yes, yes. Um, Captures that time very well. All righty. But whenever I make a mistake in my life, this is actually something that kind of gets me through that moment when I have to remind myself I'm still human. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean that we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have an honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and we will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are the facts out of our experience. Um, and of all the ironic spots that is in, that's actually in step 4, which is in step 4. There's actually a section dedicated to your sex life in the AA Big Book that basically says, we don't judge what's right, wrong, or indifferent. You do you, more or less. But it's up to you and your creator to decide what is right in your bedroom life. That's kind of the long and the short of it. Maybe sometime we'll actually analyze that section for you all. But that's actually there's an actual section, I guess you could say, all on that. Um, Actually, I'll read the next paragraph. You guys might like this. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge, and to yield would mean heartache. Basically, if you're having problems, go work with another human being. Do something to help them get through whatever's bothering them. It'll kind of take you outside of yourself, and by helping another person, you're able to kind of get through your problems that way. And in essence, if you don't do this, to kind of give into to give into what the problem is would only just make matters worse. Okay, that's kind of the dumbed down version, if I guess you can say again. All right, we're creeping up on that 1 hour marker, and we have a lot. We have 3 people in live. We've had a lot of people jump in and out. Do you guys want me to keep going a little while longer? Maybe picking again some more excerpts, or are you guys, or do you guys think maybe we should start winding it down? I'll let you guys decide, because if you guys want, we'll keep rocking. Good stuff, Maynard. Make sure that it's updating like it's supposed to. That happened a couple days ago where my chat wasn't updating. But if you guys want me to keep going, we'll keep going a little while longer. More? Okay, Sean, we're going to rock and roll. We're going to keep going. All righty. Third step promises. I love these promises. Okay. And maybe we'll have to read the 9th step promises. Ooh. You're happy with more? Okay, we'll keep going, guys. We'll keep going. All right, these are the third step promises. All right. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans, and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we can contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. When I read these for the very first time, I'm like, wow, that, I was like, I want that. I want that so bad. And, you know, uh, so when I was going through my third step, that was deep. It was powerful. I wanted what it was talking about right there. I wanted that, and you know, it, to me, I mean, even today, that is hearing the third step promise is still just so moving and powerful. At almost every meeting, you'll hear the ninth step promises, though. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love the ninth step, hearing the ninth step promises. And I've had these, I guess you could say I've had these happen to me. So why not share them with you guys? I'll share them with you. Take me a second to find these still. Oh, yeah. These are called the ninth step promises in the AA Big Book. Starts on page 83 and goes to 84. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. And you'll hear these a lot of times at meetings, and I do love hearing the ninth step promises, but something about hearing those third step promises is just still so moving. And every once in a while, um, you'll hear me actually grab the book and go to the third step promises and read them in a meeting and say, we read the ninth step promises, but these were probably the most important for me in the early days of my sobriety because they seemed like they were so obtainable, so reachable, and for me that was where it was at. I mean, that was what I needed. I needed some goals, I guess you could say, something that could happen to me if I stayed sober. I needed them close and obtainable and things like that. So it was definitely powerful. And oh, if you ever wondered, um, step 10, this is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. So yeah, 10th step, I mean, in a nutshell, is kind of oftentimes referred to as the maintenance step. Um, Let me go to something. Okay, 10th step promises. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. By this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If we are tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. and we will find that this happens automatically. We will see how our new attitude towards liquor has been given to us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe, protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Powerful stuff, isn't it? Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. See, these are the things that Alcoholics Anonymous gave me. I mean, and that's what it's given me. Living up to my promise here on YouTube, I would no longer be smoking on camera, but using a vapor, because me without smoking is dangerous. Every time I try to quit smoking, I always start wanting to drink. So let's worry about the one that'll kill me the quickest. Okay. Oh, thank you, dear. My loving wife refilling my coffee cup. Thank you, honey. Yeah, I'm a lucky man. I'm a lucky man. Or as we say in AA, I'm a blessed man. Wife topping off the cup so we can keep going, right? Right? Someone did mention this earlier, prayer and meditation. That's actually a lot of step 11, that's one of them things. Deep stuff there again.
Did you eat all your pizza already?
No, why do you want any?
No, I don't want your pizza. I just want to make sure you had something to snack on.
Oh yeah, I'm good, baby. I'm good. All right. The 12th step is actually the 12th step in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book is the entire chapter 7. Okay. And this isn't any actual promises, but I guess you could say these are Prince Magnum's promises. I guess you could say the thing that I look forward to, even doing these live streams. And life will take on a new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. Page 89. Sorry, that still moves me even to this day. When I read that for the first time, I was like, wow, I started tearing up. Even now, I'm actually wanting to tear up a little bit, because it's just that powerful to me. And it seems like, what's in this book reaches, when I do these lives, whenever I'm talking about stuff like this, it just reaches so many people. And it's still so powerful, still so moving. So, if you will, one of these times I'm gonna have to drag out my big print big book where people actually sign it and leave their with their words of wisdom behind it. There's actually quite a bit of that. Oh, here, page 88. I had an old timer. He heard me do the first three words on page 112 will tell you everything you need to know about staying sober. Read this book. He said, "Hey, Prince Magnum," he said, "you go to that book a lot." He said, "Just out of curiosity, do you know where the shortest paragraph in the big book is?" And I said, "Not offhand, I don't." He said, "Look it up for me. The paragraph, it works, really, it does." Well, I went that day and looked it up, and I hadn't seen it, and I kept looking for him at meetings, and finally I cornered him, like a couple, like 3-4 days later after I found it. I walked up and said, "Hey, just out of curiosity, I said, I don't know if you know this. I actually, found the shortest paragraph in the big book." He said, "Where is it?" I said, "Page 88. It's about a third to a quarter of the way down on the book." And I said, "It works, really, it does. It's the shortest paragraph in the big book." He said, "You looked it up." Because at this time, he didn't honestly think I was for real. He said, "You went and looked it up." I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And he said, "Really?" I said, "I actually looked it up that day." I said, I was hoping I'd run into you at a meeting so I could tell you that I found it." He's like, "I'll be danged. I'll be danged." Okay. He said, and at that point, and every time I see him, just fantastic, we always get, he'll actually, if we sit next to each other, that they're like, "Can you guys behave so we can have this meeting?" He said, "Henri cuss." And he gets me going. It's like I'm sitting there in the meeting and he's like, he eggs me on, which it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. I get going real easy. Real quick, I'll do the joke real quick. I'll do the joke. Every once in a while in a meeting, I still tell this joke, and every time we do a sober talk live, we're definitely going to have to do this joke. Okay, we're going to have to do this. Um, who popped in? Who just popped in? Oh, okay. Anyhow, here's the joke that he basically oh, saying hi to the missus. Okay. Took me a moment, like, anyhow. Here's a joke that that sober man passed on to me. This group of scientists got together and decided that they would try to figure out the behaviors of an alcoholic. So they go into a bar and they find three guys drinking beer. The three guys get up and go to the restroom. And while they're away, the scientists put a fly in each one of their beers. When the three guys get back, the first guy looks at his beer, sees the fly, he slides it across to the bartender and orders a different one. And the scientists go, this must be the social drinker. The second guy sees the fly in his beer, reaches in, picks it out, flicks it across the bar, and starts drinking. This must be the heavy drinker. The third guy, he gets irate. I mean, he gets really upset. He reaches in, grabs hold of the fly by each one of his wings, and screams, "Spit that out, you son of a..." I'm wondering which one is the real alcoholic at this point. Every time I tell a joke, there's always someone who laughs and can't stop laughing. So I'm wondering how many people are going to be laughing in the comments right now. Good stuff. First time I told that in a meeting, there was people who were falling out of their chairs laughing. The meeting had to stop for a few moments when I told that in a meeting. So just take that. Right, the real alcoholic. Which you'll hear me every once in a while in an AA meeting and say, "Hello, my name is," I'll use my real name and say, "I'm an alcoholic." "Yeah, I'm a real alcoholic," like that, and it's making to that joke. So even after, I'm the guy who would have grabbed the fly by the wings. And see, Sober Man actually broke that joke down. He said, the reason why it's so funny to all of us alcoholics, I mean, truly funny to us alcoholics, is because we want every last drop of that alcohol so we can stay in oblivion as long as possible. He said, we don't necessarily just have a problem with alcohol. We have a problem with life. Okay. We have a problem with living life, and we want oblivion. We want numbness. So that's why we act the way that we do. He said, so when that third guy gets so irate, think about it. He wants that fly to spit that alcohol out so he can have it. And he said, for us, it's that sad. So when we get into recovery and we hear this joke, he said, that's why we relate to it so well, because we're that third guy. And he broke. See, Sober Man has an amazing way of breaking things down. Anytime he's like, Prince Magnum, my boy, I know I'm going to learn something. And he's going to blow my mind. This is like, that's what's up. Anyhow, so y'all learn, y'all are learning what I learned now. Scary, isn't it? Anyhow, all right. So, one of the old timers always said page 30 was what changed his life. The one thing that kind of, that where he knew he was in the right place. Page 30, first paragraphs. If you ever wonder why so many of us have to have so many bad things happen to us and things like that before we just decide to get sober and Alcoholics Anonymous, page 30, more about alcoholism. That first paragraph on that page, you'll find it kind of like right there. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession. Hang on, just lost my place. The great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death. So if you ever wondered, that's actually what it is. I mean, I'm not kidding. So if you were ever wondering about that, that's actually an obsession. That we can drink like regular people. That person's over there having, why can't I? Why can't I? And so that's actually, as a matter of fact, kind of a funny story. I remember having this AA pamphlet one time. Somehow it ended up in my car, and I'm kind of glad that it did. And as I was reading this AA pamphlet, I ended up reading this AA pamphlet because one day I was just having a really, really ticked off. I guess you could say I was just kind of in that frame of mind where I'm like, maybe I'm too young to be an Alcoholics Anonymous. And at that time, I was 26 going on 27. I was like, maybe I'm too young to be an Alcoholics Anonymous. And I happened to pick up that pamphlet and read it, and it had a person, it was like, do you think you're different? And in there was a story about someone who was actually 15, 16, something. I forget exactly how old they were. They were really young, way too young to be drinking, but they were a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. They had hit that wall. And again, later on, I actually met someone who was like 54 when I met them, I think, something like that. And they had gotten sober at the age of 14. So, I guess I was, 26 wasn't that young when I got sober. I've actually met people that were 18 and 19 years old getting sober for the first time. So it was interesting. So I guess it just means that alcoholism, again, doesn't really care. It can get anyone, and again, if drugs are your thing, well, hello, Princess. I'm about to massacre your name, so I do apologize. Levi, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'll just call you Princess. Princess TV, I guess, is the best way because I cannot pronounce. I am so sorry. Welcome to the live. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh wow, we got 6 likes. Wow, that is awesome. We're actually talking about, I'm actually reading some different stuff out of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. It's actually just self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous. And I just talked about earlier how it got called, became known as the Big Book. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the live. Thank you so much for being here. Talking about sobriety, sharing some of my personal experience, strength, and hope, in hopes that that someone who might need it, maybe it might help them decide to go get help for their alcoholism. Or maybe someone who's an alcoholic and needs that little something. Maybe there's something in here that you can kind of take away and maybe take away and maybe it'll help them, or maybe just something in all of this because Alcoholics Anonymous, I know a lot of people that will actually come into an open AA meeting. They're not members of Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do they have a problem with alcohol. They come in to just hear the experience of those of us who are trying to get sober or stay sober. For those who do not know, my sober date is February 7th, 2006. So as of February 7th of this year, I made 14 years without a drink or a drug. So kudos to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you so much, Princess TV. Thank you so much for being here for me. Again, I will say it. I said it earlier in the live. I will say it again. I am still a very selfish alcoholic. I need every last one of you out there. I need every one of you to be with me. Princess Faye checking on me. I need every last one of you to help me stay sober today. I am still very selfish. I need all of you, every one of you, to help me today. Yeah, here I am now, a 40-year-old man, 14 years later, still talking about Alcoholics Anonymous and how it saved my life, which I need to get my butt to a meeting as soon as possible once all of this stuff, this pandemic blows over. So again, if you know someone who needs Alcoholics Anonymous and can't get to a meeting, you know where to send them. You need to go check out this guy, Prince Magnum. He's got some stuff on sobriety. It might help you. Anyhow, let's see. And real quick, I know Katie is in the live stream with us right now. I will say right now, Katie is also one that I know if I started drinking again, she would track me down and kick the living crap out of me. I know she would. No question about it. She's just, if y'all haven't listened to one of Katie's live streams, she's absolutely phenomenal. Again, while the live stream is going, you're not connected with someone, connect with them, network. Help each other out. That's how we grow the community. And again, I will say it again, the Prince Magnum channel has the best subscribers in the world because we are the Maverick Nation. All right, moving on. Powerful stuff, guys. You guys are my inspiration, And there's just no other way to say it. No other way to say it. Let's see. We just talked about that one. That's always a good one. Always a powerful one. This is one at the beginning of A Vision for You. Sometimes we'll have someone that, I can get sober on my own. I don't need Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't need, I don't need any of that stuff, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. And guys like me, okay, fine, whatever, you can go out and, try your thing. And, if you need us, we'll be here for you, that sort of thing. It's like, you do you, usually they end up back. And this is the paragraph that kind of, we know they're going to be back because this is what we'll reference. Now and then a serious drinker being dry at the moment says, don't miss it all. Feel better, work better, having a better time. As ex-problem drinkers, we smile at such a sally. We know our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark to keep his spirits up. He fools himself. Inwardly, he would give anything to take half a dozen drinks and get away with them. He will presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. He cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. He will know loneliness as such as few do. He will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. We know that's where eventually this person will end up. And, here's the thing, one of the things that Sober Man taught me was that You hear some people say, I hit my bottom. I hit my bottom. I hate that term. Okay. I hate that term. I call it that moment of truth. Okay. Bless you, honey. I call it hitting that moment of truth. Okay. And what that moment of truth is, okay, if you will, the moment of truth is that moment where, you know, we stop lying to ourselves, okay? Because Soberman put it like this. He said, "You think you've hit as low as you can get. No, you haven't. Go out and have another drink. You'll find a lower bottom. I promise you, you will." And he said, "But do remember this. The lowest bottom you can get, the lowest you can get is 6 feet under." He was that blunt. He pulled no punches. He's like, that's how low you can go. He said, you don't get any lower than that. He said, the lowest you can get is 6 feet under and they're throwing dirt in your face. Okay. He said, that's the lowest bottom you can get. He said, so always remember, there's a lot lower bottoms before, he said, that's where you get honest with yourself. When you're looking in the mirror and say, I can't keep going like this, And we actually talked about this earlier in the live, which I guess I can read it again, for those that missed it earlier. I just had it. 25 Prince Magnum, page 25. If you're as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was going on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other, to accept spiritual help. That's again, making sure my chat is updating like it's supposed to. If you will, that's, we have two choices. One, keep on keeping on, or get honest with ourselves and go seek what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer. Yeah, and this is the honest to goodness truth. One of the reasons why so many people are having a hard time these days getting sober. Almost none of us like the self-searching and the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires its successful consummation. The honest truth. You don't want to have to actually admit you got problems, and you don't want to have to admit, to kind of deflate your ego. And I will be the first to say it right now. I, Prince Magnum, used to be the center of the universe, or at least in my mind. Okay. I will also say that when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had the biggest ego you would ever see. It was like huge, humongous. Godzilla size, if you will. And Soberman put it best. He said, those of us who come into Alcoholics Anonymous with the biggest egos usually have, hate ourselves the most. So those of us who come into AA with the biggest egos hate ourselves the most. So ironically enough, I'm like, yep. So when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had the big alcoholic ego, but I hated myself an awful lot. I was a big walking, talking contradiction back then. And, so that was just one of them things, So again, right now every now and again, I have to reach up here because sometimes my chat doesn't like to update like it's supposed to. So I'm making doubly sure I don't miss anybody's questions or comments. Again, if any of you got any questions of what I might be talking about, maybe someone or maybe you yourself, suffer from the same disease that I do. You got a question, want to pick my brain real quick, by all means, feel free to ask. Again, if you want to, want a particular something out of the book, I'll be glad to read it for you, whatever it is, Um, again, this is, I notice a lot of the time now, when we do sober talk, a lot of people that come in usually themselves aren't alcoholic or addict, but they come in wanting the positive vibes that comes from Alcoholics Anonymous, which is really interesting. Little did I know. Little did I know. Anyhow, um, all right, real quick. I'm going to throw it out to you guys. Do you guys want me to keep going for a little bit longer? I mean, we have reached almost an hour and a half, and this is quite possibly well, not quite the longest, but getting close to that point where it's been like, I have been going for a good minute. It's actually getting here where I live here in Missouri. You want more? Okay, Sean, we'll keep rocking and rolling a little bit longer. We'll keep rocking and rolling. Yeah, I can do that. Now, eventually, I am going to have to wind it down because I got to work tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll be at work, 4 a.m. to be precise. The joys of being a McDonald's maintenance man. Actually, I do enjoy it. I do like being a maintenance man. Hang on here. Every once in a while, whenever when I've had a sponsee that'll argue with me, I have to have this, I got to have that, that sort of thing, before I can get sober and that, and stuff like that. I'll actually pick up my book and do this number. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking as long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence upon God. Burn into the consciousness of every man that he can get well, regardless of anyone. The only condition that he trusts in God and clean house. And they're usually like, you had that plan, didn't you? They're like, you son of a... But can't you just go along with what I want? No. Ain't got time for that. We got, that's not how I got sober. And I can tell you right now, that's not how you're going to get sober. It's just one of them things. Sometimes, when you get a sponsee, they want to argue everything. And for the record, I wanted to argue a few things. I wanted to argue some of my recovery too. Oh goodness! Oh wow! You can tell it's getting late in the evening for me. Like I said, I'm one of those guys that have to turn in early and get up early. The older I get too, the more sleep I almost need too. Anyhow, there's that one. It works, really. It does. Every once in a while, I'll throw that one out there, people.
Ignore me, I'm not here.
Oh, actually, a few of them said hi to you.
Oh, hi, few of them.
I think, hang on, I'll tell you. Oh, Sean said hi. Yeah. Sean said hi.
I'm cleaning out the closet in the bedroom right now. You might not believe it.
Well, Gamerin, you know that, if you got Discord, we might, if you ever need to talk about that, whatever it is, we'll have to hook up on Discord sometime. You can always talk to me in private. You honored cousin. Princess Faye has been with me to numerous meetings, and ironically enough, one of the times that I spoke to a very large number of people, thank you. It was literally, I think it was something like well into the 200s. I think it was like 250 something people. She watched me get up and talk to, for a couple minutes in front of that many people. I came back and I said, "Well, how'd I do?" And she's like, "Nothing." She's like, "If you didn't talk like that, I would think there was something seriously wrong with you." And it's one of my favorite moments in sobriety. Um, for her to see me do that. Of course, later on, she said, "Just so you know, even though I said it like that, I want you to know I was very proud of you." I mean, just it was. She's like, you could really see how comfortable you were, um, in your, you were in your element being in front of people like that. And it's just, she's like, you were right in your element. For the record, in AA, we don't like to use that word sin, and it's just we don't like that word. We call them character defects. Okay, character defects can come in any shape or form, and sometimes we find that some of those character defects can be turned into assets. For example, um, like my ego driven, I like to be center stage and everything. So I'll try to, in the old days I would steal the spotlight and want everyone to pay attention to me. Just part of my ego. I have no problem getting in front of people and sharing the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's in a group of people that are already in recovery, or to newcomers who are looking for recovery. So for whatever reason, I'm comfortable with that, and so that's, if you will, that's how we take a character defect and turn it into an asset. Or in my particular case, I like to say that's how we turn a frown upside down. you know, I actually said that to meeting one day, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, like really, dude? You're gonna be like that?" Yeah, yeah, I am. You know, um, real quick, we'll go to the third step again, um, and actually look at the fifth step real quick. There's a spot after the fifth step that I actually had to do when I was doing my fifth step. And believe me, I was very glad that Sober Man had me do this. Believe me, I'm very, very glad he had me do this. And this is actually written right after the fifth step promises. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. Carefully reviewing what we have done, we thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Um, at first, when I heard about this arch thing, was actually in the third step. And it kind of goes, most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. And if you guys remember, we went to the fifth step promises, and it talks about how we feel like the drink problem has been removed and that sort of stuff, things like that. The irony of that is basically it relates to like this spiritual arch, and this whole thing of when you go through it, you're stepping into a new free life. How it's almost like a metaphorical thing. That I don't know what Bill was kind of going with, but I mean at first, but then it started making sense, So if you will, now we have our structure, and we're going through, and after kind of getting kind of understanding that, I guess you could say that spiritual arch that they're talking about in the fifth step, I actually came up with this whole thing that I said in a meeting that I've taken my fifth step, and now we're taking a look at going into my sixth step, and it talks about this archway in the fifth step in the big book, And we passed through that archway, I guess you could say. And now on the other side, I actually found myself. My sponsor and I found myself, and I was kind of, and I kind of gave this description that, I was, the real me was in this frozen wasteland, frozen, cold, but still alive and well. And the man sitting before you today is alive and well and sober because of all of you around the tables of Alcoholics Anonymous. So that was actually something I said in a meeting. I don't know where I came up with that. It's just one of those things, And when Sober Man heard me say that, he's like, "That was beautiful, man. You should have wrote that down. That'd probably make one heck of a, poem, for the program. We would probably, He said, who knows who would use that?" And he said, "That's just an interesting way you put it." So there you have that little tidbit. We have 3 I can see that are in the live, 6 likes. Thank you all so very much for being here with me. Again, I will say it again. If you see somebody in the live that you do not know, network. Oh my gosh, we have 7. Thank you so much. Wow, we have 7 likes in the live. Thank you all so much for smashing that like button for me. It means so much to this guy right here. You guys help me stay sober. Thank you. Again, I'm going to say it. Prince Magnum is a very, very selfish alcoholic. I need every last one of you out there. I'm that selfish. And we are over 1,000 strong in the Maverick Nation. That's pretty selfish. I need a lot of you. And I still even need the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So what do you think of that too? I'm very selfish, ironically enough. Hey, honesty. It's a good thing. Oh, man. Let's see. Throw another good one at you guys. Throw another good one here. Let's see. I know one. Working with others. Because I know some of you have probably had the question of how, because I know that I've got tons of video where I've been on stage singing karaoke in a bar, and what I'm specifically looking for is basically kind of the guidelines of how I can do that, be in a bar, and here I am in recovery. So if you guys have ever wondered that, we're going to go over that real quick. And that's what I know where it is, but it's like my mind is going. I have a photographic memory, just someone forgot to put the film in. Here we go. And real quick, if I'm hanging out with you and you want a drink of alcohol and that sort of thing, I will say right now, if that is the case, and then you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't be drinking around you," I will actually take offense at it. It's like, don't change your habits for me. If you want to drink, have a drink, that sort of thing. So here, let me throw this one out. Assuming we were spiritually fit, we could do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles if we go into their houses. We mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Our experience shows this is not necessarily so. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. His only chance for sobriety would be someplace like the Greenland ice cap, and even there an Eskimo might turn up a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. Ask any woman who has sent her husband to a distant place on the theory that he would escape the alcohol problem. In our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. This includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, even plain old ordinary whoopee parties. To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like tempting province, but it isn't. You must note that we have made an important qualification. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, have I any good social, business, or personal reason for going to this place? Or am I expecting to steal a little vicarious pleasure from the atmosphere of such places? If you answer these questions satisfactorily and you have no apprehension, go or stay, whichever seems best. But be sure you're on solid spiritual ground before you start, and your motive in going is thoroughly good. Do not think of what you can get out of the occasion, think of what you can bring to it. If you are shaky, you had better work with another alcoholic instead. Why sit with a long face in places where there is drinking, sighing about the good old days? If it is a happy occasion, try to increase the pleasure of those there. If it is a business occasion, go and attend to your business enthusiastically. If you are there with a person who wants you to eat in a bar, by all means, go along. Let your friends know they are not to change their habits on your account. At a proper time and place, explain to your friends why alcohol disagrees with you. If you do this thoroughly, few people will ask you to drink. While you were drinking, you were withdrawing from life little by little. Now you're trying to get back into the social life of this world. Do not start withdrawing again just because your friends drink liquor.
I just thought I'd let you know you were almost 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. Your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go to anywhere if you can be of help. You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. Keep on the firing line of life and with these motives, and God will keep you unharmed. Many of us keep liquor in our homes. We often need it to carry a green recruit through a severe hangover, and some of us serve it to our friends, provided they're not alcoholic. But some of us think we should not serve liquor to anyone. We never argue this question. We feel that each family, in the light of their own circumstances, ought to decide for themselves. We are careful never to show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. Our experience shows that such an attitude is not helpful to anyone. Every new alcoholic looks for the spirit among us and is immensely relieved when he finds we are not witch burners. A spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives could have been saved if it had not been for such stupidity. We would not even do the cause of temperate drinking any good, for not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by anyone who hates it. Someday we hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will help the public to a better realization of the gravity of the alcoholic problem, but we shall be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Drinkers will not stand for it. After all, our problems were of our own making. Bottles were only a symbol. Besides, we have to stop fighting everybody or everything. We have to. And that's actually in the AA Big Book. So if you guys were ever wondering why I'm perfectly okay going into a bar, singing karaoke, sipping on soda, that's why. That's why. And I tell people, don't feel weird by having a drink around me. Okay. You want to drink, have a drink. Okay. Don't feel weird. You do you. You do you. So if y'all ever wondered about that, my goodness. Welcome, Robbie, to the chat. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. Sorry. There we go. Hey, honey, Gamer and said hi too. All righty. And Robbie, welcome to the chat. We're actually getting close to winding it down. We're at an hour and 45 minutes. Guys, we've went on for a good while. Thank you all again so much for the 7 likes. But we are beginning to wind this down. Unfortunately, again, I have to get some rest because I have to be at work tomorrow. The joys of being a McDonald's maintenance man, which again, I do enjoy being a maintenance man. I do like it. But we are beginning to wind this down. Thank goodness I double checked that. Again, if you don't know each other, be sure to network. Get to know one another in the chat. Be sure to check out each other's channels. I know that everyone goes, "Oh, do it the right way, do it the right way." Look, get over there and say hi to one another on each other's channels the first chance you get. And the best thing you can do is when you're doing it, you're watching, someone's video or whatever, tell them what you liked about it, give some good constructive criticism on the video. Usually I tell everyone, hey, I'm glad we hooked up because now I'm seeing what you can do, and I a lot of times I'll pick people's brains on what I can do. Oh, it was my pleasure, Sean. It was my pleasure, to extend the live a little longer. Normally I don't go past an hour, but you know what? During these dark times right now, I think everyone needed some serious positive. But before we get to that moment where we start winding it down, I did say there was a spot in the Big Book on the page 164 that quite literally, it's like, I don't remember much about my first meeting, but I definitely remember this, hearing it out of the book for the very first time. So we're going to go to it. And this still holds a very special spot in the heart for me. And I've been dying to read this in a live for you all. Okay. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we only know a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past and give freely of what you will find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Still powerful and moving after all these years. I'm sorry, just to be able to share this with you guys. First, I don't even remember. I know they said they did it. I don't remember hearing how it works, or I vaguely remember hearing the Serenity Prayer, and I vaguely remember hearing, a lot of the stuff that they say in AA meetings. But the one meeting I was at, I remember hearing that for the very first time, my very first meeting, and that was powerful. It was moving, and it was the one thing, that trudged the road of happy destiny. So it was just deep and it was powerful. And I still like reading it every once in a while. As a matter of fact, there was a gentleman that I met years when I first got sober, and him and I, he could barely read. Okay, he could barely read. He he actually, diehard Christian man, and actually, of all the things, he he was one of those. When he wanted to do a Bible study of some sort, he would actually have to have an audiobook to do his Bible studies. When I got sober, um, you know, I said, you've shared stuff with me that's in the Bible. Why don't I share something out of the AA Big Book? And I read that to him, and he was kind of the rough, tough guy kind of guy, and he started sniffling, and he said, "Prince Magnum, that is one of the most powerful things I have ever heard in my entire life. Thank you for sharing that with me." And so evidently it moves people who are not even alcoholic, and I hope that it moved you guys a little bit too. It still moves me to read it. All righty. So again, thank you all so much for being with me here on the live. We're going to go ahead and start winding this story, winding this one down. Normally, when I do when I do a live stream or regular video, I say certain things, get out there and work on a project, all that good stuff. In sober talk, I do something a little bit different, and I have a certain thing that I just specifically for sober talk. So this is how we're going to go ahead and end it, and that goes like this. At day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. And for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.